I told you the Denver Broncos were going to win the AFC West. I freaking told you. And look what happened. I told you. I said they were going to make the playoffs last season. And what happened? They did. I said this season they were going to win the AFC West. And who's sitting on top of the division? Oh, yeah, that's right. The Broncos. Thank you.
Josh, I'm going to say something that I rarely ever say on this show. So drink your sweet tea, enjoy what I'm about to say, because I was wrong. You were right. The Denver Broncos are not only going to win the AFC West, they are more than likely going to get a top 2 seed in the AFC. And the Kansas City Chiefs may or may not make the playoffs. And
think about that. If the playoffs started today, they would be on the outside looking in.
Not only that, but they're not even the next team up. That would be the Houston Texans. They are the 9th seed currently in the AFC. Now, as we know, the playoffs don't start today. We still have 7 weeks to go. But you look at that for the Chiefs, and obviously we're going to get into what it means later in the show between the Chiefs and Colts. It's a big game this weekend. But I was shocked by 2 things. Number one, Kansas City coming off a bye. They're always better prepared. They're always rested. Andy Reid always comes out with a new wrinkle, home or away. And they just looked from jump like they didn't have that energy. They didn't have that extra oomph coming off a bye. They didn't have the 15-play scripted where Mahomes is out making plays early. And the second thing was this. We talked about this year how Bo Nix has mostly struggled in the first 3 quarters of the season. He had a tremendous 4th quarter against the Eagles. He had a tremendous 4th quarter against the Giants, and he did play well in the Cowboy game and the Bengal game this season. But given the circumstances of what Sunday meant, and the Chiefs knowing what Sunday meant to their chances of potentially being in line with the New England Patriots for most consecutive division titles in a franchise's history, I thought that was the single best game Bo Nix has ever played in his high school, college, or professional career. The way he was able to constantly convert 3rd downs, get Denver in the right situation, not turn the football over. Denver, obviously, with the interception of Mahomes, they win the turnover battle. And again, it may not look pretty, but have my Philadelphia Eagles looked pretty this year? No. They're 8-2. The Denver Broncos have not looked pretty. They're 8-2. So if I'm giving my Eagles credit, I got to give the Broncos credit. This was their litmus test, and they passed it for me.
Yes. And what was more impressive about this win was the fact that they did it without the reigning defending defensive player of the year, Patrick Surtain.
And the guy who replaced him as well, the Moss kid, who was like one of only 2 corners, along with Cooper DeJean, to be a white corner in the National Football League. He was getting pass interference calls left and right. He got at least 3 in the game, and he's the one that made one of the big plays to end the game down there for Kansas City. And again, when this Chiefs team in Week 10 against Washington, they went in there, Marcus Mariota was the quarterback, they handled their business. Everything was right in front of them. And it's like, okay, you lose to Buffalo, fine. You go on your bye week. You have 2 weeks to prepare for this Denver team. And the most shocking thing to me was their defense did not show up. For the most part, Patrick Mahomes did not show up. Really, the only person that showed up was Travis Kelce, of all people.
Yeah. Remember when everybody was talking about, when they get Xavier Worthy back, their offense is going to be clicking. Or, no, it was Rashid Rice. Yeah, you're right. It was when we thought, they're going to get Rashid Rice back and their offense is going to start firing on all cylinders. That hasn't been the case.
Well, it did for 1 week against what might be the worst defense in pro football, not named the Bengals and the Las Vegas Raiders.
Well, the Titans are in the mix there too, but still.
I mean, so here's what is the deal for the Chiefs. They are at 5-5. They are the 9 seed. Now, Houston's still going to play this week without C.J. Stroud. Davis Mills is starting. They host Buffalo on Thursday night. If they lose, the Chiefs are able to then defeat the Colts on Sunday in their building, which, as good as the Colts are, and I know they're coming off a bye, again, with their pedigree, they should. Then the Chiefs are in position to potentially make the playoffs. But what I cannot wait for, and what I really want to happen is this scenario. Josh, I think you know this. So week 17, the Broncos will go to Kansas City. It's Thursday night. It's the Amazon Prime game on Christmas night. I want the Broncos to actually lose that game, but still have control of the division. I want them to have the number 2 seed locked up. Because what I want to happen is in week 18, for the Denver Broncos to have the number 2 seed completely locked in to the point where if they win, they can't get the 1. If they lose, they can't drop to the 3. And I want them to basically decide, do we want to play the Chiefs? Meaning, do we want to rest all our guys week 18 against the Chargers and let the Chiefs get in and play them? Or do we play all our guys, try to beat the Chargers, and face Jacksonville in the wild card round? Because I think that'd be a fascinating decision by Sean Payton.
Yeah, I fully agree. But we're talking a lot about the Chiefs. Think about this with Denver. Like you mentioned it, Bo Nix finally played a complete game, and they lost J.K. Dobbins for the season, but it doesn't seem like their running game was greatly affected.
Well, that's because they haven't been able to run the football anyway, which is why I don't know yet if Denver is a perennial Super Bowl contender. Though I will say the one thing about Denver that works in their favor, they may have not been able to run the ball yet this year with J.K. Dobbins or R.J. Harvey, but they lead the league in QB sacks, and they have the least amount of sacks given up to Bo Nix, which means that for the most part, their offensive line and defensive line is controlling the game, which means that will travel. That is playoff football. And those stats tell you this team is a perennial Super Bowl contender.
If they somehow are able to steal the number 1 seed away from New England, that makes things really interesting because you want to try and go into Denver and beat the Broncos in January when it's probably going to be snowing and not great conditions, a mile high. I don't think so.
Well, here's the interesting part. Let's say you're right in this scenario. Let's say Denver steals the number 1 seed from New England. Let's say New England stays the 2 seed. Let's say the Chiefs sneak into the playoffs and they're the 7th seed. And they got to go to New England for Drake May's first ever playoff game. And let's say the Chiefs on the road, because of Mahomes and all that, win that game. That means that they would automatically then go to Denver, with Denver coming off a bye, Bo Nix's first ever home playoff game, and he's got to beat Kansas City in his house again. I would put almost all my cards on the table that I would just say, I'm going to pick Kansas City and live with the result.
Even with all their offensive issues.
Yeah, because I think Denver's issues are the same as Kansas City's. Both teams can't run the football.
What scares me about Kansas City, though, is we haven't really heard Chris Jones' name in the last couple games defensively, and it feels like Kansas City is so dependent on him to make their defense effective.
You're absolutely right, because they haven't gotten the pass rush this year. He's had a down year, and, Mahomes has had, I would say, a better year than last year, but not a fantastic year. And the crazy thing about the Chiefs this year, Josh, remember how everybody last year talked about, oh my God, they're so lucky. They're 16-1. They win all these one-score games. Do you know that at this point this year, at the same point last year, the Chiefs are averaging more points a game. They've given up less points a game. They're averaging better in the turnover margin than they were a year ago. Last year, this time they were -5. Now they're +3. And yet they're 4 games worse.
Yeah, and they have not had the same luck in one-score games. I think they're 0-5.
They are 0-5. And last year, what were they, 12-0?
Something like that. But in terms of Denver, yes, they don't really run the ball. But when Bo Nix has time, he's finding Evan Ingram, Cortland Sutton, Franklin, and he's making.
Well, I'll disagree on the Evan Ingram front because I can tell you I have him on my fantasy team. He's not finding Evan Ingram. But he is finding Franklin, who's stepped up for him a lot. He's finding RJ Harvey out of the backfield. He's finding Cortland Sutton down the field late in games. And they're just finding a way to win games. And again, I think that is turning into a skill. I think the NFL has never been worse at the bottom and it's never been as close in the middle. So I don't care anymore how sexy it looks. I'm at the point to where, do you win games? And the Denver Broncos right now are winning games.
Honestly, if the Super Bowl ends up being Broncos-Eagles, the final score of that game might be 16-10.